Thank you all for joining the Finance Committee meeting to go over the CPA projects that were chosen. If you all could just say who you are and yep.
Who, the committee members or like
Yes,
everyone?
The committee member, like everyone. No, everyone. I'll start with Walter.
Hey, Councilor Whitfield, thank you. Walter Kroll, McKnight Neighborhood Council.
Thank you, Walter. Karen.
Karen Lee, Community Preservation Committee Administrative Consultant.
Thank you. Kathy. Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted, Kathy.
Thank you. It's Kathy Brown from the East Springfield Neighborhood Council. Thank you very much for doing the meeting. We're happy to have this exposure. Thank you.
Thank you. Rhonda.
Rhonda Sherrill from the Old Hill Neighborhood Council.
Thank you, Rhonda. Gloria. Can't hear you, but it doesn't look like you're muted, Gloria, but can't hear you. Oh, no.
Well, I'll introduce Gloria. She is
Okay.
the CPC representative from the Planning Board.
Planning Board. Okay. Thank you.
And
Ron.
Rhonda is the newest neighborhood representative on the Community Preservation Committee.
Rhonda. Okay. But I know Rhonda.
Yes, I know you, Councilman. Woman. How are you?
Good, and you? Ron.
Ron LeBaron from the Classical Condo. I'm the board president.
Oh, thank you. Sean. Sean.
Sean, Vice President on the McKnight Neighborhood Council.
Thank you. Melanie.
Hello, Counselor Melanie Kobe, Budget Director in our Finance Department. I'm not part of the CPC committee, but I'm just here listening in and to provide any city support if you need it.
Perfect. Laura.
Everyone, Laura Walsh, Senior Parks Project Manager for the Department of Parks, Building and Recreation Management. I'm here to support some of our projects and hear what else is going on.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank
James.
you.
Hi, James Linfield with Wayfinders Project Management. Good afternoon, Counselor.
Good afternoon. Thank you, James. Molly.
Hi, good evening, Councilor Whitfield. This is Molly Fogarty from the Springfield City Library.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Welcome. Robert.
Bobby DeMusis from the City of Springfield's Office of Housing.
Thank you, Robert. Elizabeth. Bob, you can announce Elizabeth.
I think that's Elizabeth Letterman.
Oh, Elizabeth Letterman. Okay.
From the
McKnight Neighborhood.
Right.
Okay, because it just says L. All right, well, welcome everyone. So we'll go ahead and get started with the Finance Subcommittee meeting with just me representing the City Council. But like I said, they do have the opportunity to watch the video at a later time. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I'll turn it over to you, Karen.
Okay, we missed Bob McCarroll, who is the...
I took him for granted because I'm like, I know Bob, everybody knows Bob, but Bob, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I am the chair of the Community Preservation Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
So Bob, would you like me to just pull up the presentation and then you take it from there? Is that?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay.
And I think we'll start with the map and then we'll skip down to the projects themselves, starting with Blunt Park. So this is the fourth year that the Community Preservation has been before the City Council with its recommendations. This year we received 27 applications last spring, asking for a total of around $5 million. And we had about half that amount that we could recommend. And we are bringing to you 15 projects that we're now going to go through them one by one to see if you have any questions. This map sort of gives you an idea of where the projects that are being recommended this year are located. All right, so could have the Blunt Park slide, Karen. All right, so the first project that we're recommending, and we've clustered all of the park projects together so that if afterwards the folks from the park want to leave, they can. In Blunt Park, we were asked to help with the renovation of the 6 tennis courts up at Blunt Park. They're about 25 years old. They've got cracks in them. They need to be replaced. It's a $350,000 project. We were asked to provide $250,000 of that, and we are indeed recommending that to you. So I guess, Council, if you have any questions as we go through each project, feel free to ask them.
I did want to just go back, Bob, you said there was $5 million available in community preservation funds, and then
there were $5 million requested in assistance, and there's about half that amount that's available to recommend for projects.
Okay.
So this year we had many more high-priced projects than we had in the past.
Okay, thank you. No questions on the tennis court.
Okay. We received an application for the refurbishment of Cottage Hill Grove, which is up in Indian Orchard. This is a park that's been there for more than 100 years. There are a variety of improvements and refurbishes being planned for it. The project is a $250,000 project, and we were asked to provide the full $250,000, and we are recommending that.
No questions. I just want to welcome Councilor Davila. Oh, I think he's still connecting, but he'll be joining.
Okay, and we can always back up and cover those few that he will have missed.
Welcome, Councilor Davila, who is part of the Finance Committee. Thank you for joining us, just you and I right now.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
So the third park project is the Forest Park Picnic Grove in Forest Park. This is an area where the picnic pavilion, which has been there for many, many years, was in such a state of disarray that it's been condemned, and I believe it's already been demolished. And it's to build a new picnic pavilion and to do refurbishments to the entire picnic grove, which is sort of opposite the Rose Garden as you drive in through the park's one-way system. It's a $247,000 project. The parks are using a little bit of money from the Barney Trust, but they've asked that CPA help with $242,000, and that's what we are recommending to you. And the special condition that we're attaching to this, though, is that the new pavilion needs to replicate the old pavilion, which had a very rustic feel to it. And we want to see that go forward as opposed to getting something that looks like it's right out of Home Depot.
Any questions, Councilor Davila?
No, I do not. I thank you, Bob, for that presentation. I think it maintaining the vista and the usual charm that gives Forest Park to continue is a good fit. But thank you for approving this, recommending this, and no questions, Madam Chair.
So the next park project is the Hubbard Park tennis courts right off of Parker Street. This actually was a proposal to rebuild the tennis courts and the parking lot adjacent to the tennis courts. It's a $237,000 project. CPA is recommending assistance, but we only want to help with the tennis courts. The committee is not interested in recommending refurbishment of parking lots. And the amount for refurbishing the tennis courts are $164,979. And
Why
as you
wouldn't
can
you be
see in the
interested in
photograph, these
refurbishing the parking lot?
Oh, say that again, please,
Why
Counselor.
wouldn't you be interested in refurbishing the parking lot?
Yeah, I think our feeling is we are happy to recommend to you projects which directly are recreational in use. So, picnic areas, walking paths, baseball fields, basketball courts, tennis courts themselves. But we feel that the parking lots are really much more of the, I'm going to call it the ancillary areas of the park. And we don't want to go down the rabbit hole where we become the committee that funds park roads and parking lots.
Okay, thank you. I look at it a little slightly different because it's still part of the park. And I know that like going to some parks, it's difficult to park, even like Blunt Park area that's not paved, and it could actually destroy vehicles that can add more cost to the city. So I still feel like parking lots are part of the park, which is part of the recreation, but I guess I see your point.
Yeah, I guess my comment would be had we funded that, there would have probably been one less actual project that we would have funded, if we had paid also for the parking lot refurbishment.
Okay, Councilor Davila?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, a quick question. If you guys had chosen to recommend the parking lot, what extra cost that would have been?
I'm looking at the sheet, which is kind of small on mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it looks like there's about a $70,000 cost for the parking lot.
Okay, and I have to say that I'm kind of on the same wavelength as Councilor Whitfield. I know the parks, although I see your point, they are part of the park system. They're critical, and I understand your point, but I would just ask the committee to look a little wider on this project with the parks. I'm not saying you're going to be the de facto parking funding authority in the city, but I think I'm agreeing with Councilor Whitfield's point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I just want to welcome Councilor Letterman and Councilor Hurst and thank them for joining the meeting. Okay.
All right.
Bob, yep, we can continue.
Yeah, next slide, Karen.
Okay, just real quickly, you just answered my question. I wanted to make sure that the slideshow was up.
Yes.
Okay.
So I do have one more question. Bob, how there's that bucket of funds that has to be specific for specific projects. It's an additional pot that you usually come back for approval later.
Yep.
To the city council. Is that used in these projects?
Oh yes, yeah. We've used them. We've used them all at this point. So just to further explain what Councilor Whitfield's referring to, in CPA, 10% of the annual budget has to be put into a pot that can be used only for parks and open spaces, 10% into housing pot, 10% into a historic pot. The rest of the money, and you can spend up to 5% a year on administration, the rest of the money is in what's called an undesignated reserve, and you use that to do any one of the 3 eligible areas. So when we start voting on projects, we start emptying out the reserve pots first, and then supplementing it as we go down the line with the undesignated reserve.
Thank you, because, in the past, I think that there was like funds left in CPA. So is this like the first year that all funds were expended?
So with the exception of the slide that's now up, Magazine Park, the committee voted to recommend it, but had some questions from the park department regarding some of the costs, and is planning on actually voting on a recommendation at our next meeting, which is September 7th. But basically, you're correct. Last year, we ran out of projects that we felt comfortable in recommending to the City Council before we ran out of money. This year, assuming we end up funding a good deal of the McKnight request, we will have run out of money.
Okay. I just wanted to recognize Kay Simpson. And could you just let us know who you are, Kay?
I'm here.
Yeah, can you tell us who you are?
Yeah, Kay Simpson from the Springfield Museums.
Thank you, Kay. All right, Bob, we'll continue on.
All right, so this is Magazine Park Phase 1. It is a request to refurbish the baseball field and put in upgraded a children's playground. It is a multi-year project with other phases, and supposedly the cost of this year's phase is $350,000. CPA has been asked to give $250,000. Community Development Block Grant is making up that other $100,000. And as I said, this is the one project that we do not yet have a recommendation. We will have it as of September 7th.
Okay, so are you waiting for the Parks Department to get that information over to you that you're requesting from them?
We received a response from the Park Department, and we'll be now discussing it at the September 7th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the councilors on this project? All right.
Quick question, Madam Chair. So Bob, has there been any project in which, well, first of all, a better question, CDBG funding, has that been used on a lot of projects over the past few years? Has that been used to complement an application?
It may very well be that I don't know whether there was CDBG money in the Westminster Street Children's Playground. I sort of defer to Walter Kroll on that. But short of that, I would say, Counselor, I am not aware of CDBG money being used in tandem with CPA money.
Okay. Okay, I think that kind of speaks to my overall point. And I know, I won't beat the drum too much, Bob, because you and I have already talked about it. I think anytime the administration gets involved, the likelihood is much higher that a project, in my opinion, is approved. And then when you combine it with CDBG money, it certainly makes the project much more enticing. And I can understand why folks at CPA would want to fund it. And I also know that, all of these projects have to sort of have a city, well, not all of them, but a good majority of them typically have sort of a city conduit. And so unless you're working closely with that city department or that city department head, the likelihood is high that the project is not going to be funded, or it's certainly going to face a lot more hurdles. And so I don't know how we get around that, Bob. I know you and I have talked about it before, but it seems to me that, whether it's a consultant that is, I don't know, but we got to find a way around it. I think this is a great project. Love the fact that Magazine Park is getting done. We play on it monthly, or not monthly, yearly, and it's awful, in awful condition for our Unity and the community softball game. So I'm excited. I just know that, when we start adding CDBG money, that makes it much more enticing and certainly more likely to be approved. And, it seems like it can be problematic in the future. That's all I'll say, Bob.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. I guess the only other thing that I would mention to the councilors is the committee has its own policy of we don't recommend more than $250,000 for any project in any given year. So projects can come back to us a following year for more funding. In cases of projects that their total cost exceeds $250,000, other funding sources like the Barney Trust, like CDBG money, is certainly helpful in terms of doing the project, because our money, as we recommend it, wouldn't necessarily do everything that the neighborhood or the park department wants done.
Got it. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Counselor. Well, my observation, Bob, is I see the same players every year, and I know that other applications are submitted. And when I say the same players, it's the same players. And I know that there's no limitation on the amount of times that folks can request funding for even the same projects, the same type of projects. But I guess I'm piggybacking off of what Counselor Hurst says. If the, I don't know if I want to call them the conduit, or isn't neighborhood council related maybe, or parks department related, or a city department, housing, whatever, libraries, whatever, then it's less likely to be chosen. And that is something that we should look at, because I do feel that there's other organizations that's able to, handle and disperse the funds appropriately. This is just what I'm seeing right now as I look at the list of what was submitted. There's some other pretty good projects on here, but it seems to me, since I've reviewed them over the past 3 years, that I see the same people presenting projects in the same organizations.
Well, I guess my one comment would be, Counselor, is, in terms of at least the open space and recreational use component, I would say that in most communities that have CPA, the organization that puts in proposals is primarily whatever is their equivalent of the park department, and therefore I don't think it's uncommon that certain municipal departments are appearing frequently, because those are the departments that actually control the spaces. If you're curious, there is the Community Preservation Coalition website that has a database that you can search. And so if you were curious to know what does West Springfield do and what projects does it fund, you could go and check that out. But I think you'll find that most of the open space and recreation projects are indeed run by whatever is that community's equivalent of the park department.
So, but there are some recreational projects that's been approved that's not run by the Parks Department, correct?
Well, there certainly are projects that have come to us being, the applicant is a neighborhood organization, but the organization that then carries out the work on city land is the park department. So, for example, on Magazine Park, it's the McKnight Neighborhood Council that actually brought the application before CPA. But on the application, they said that, if this is recommended and funded, it will be the Department of Parks, Buildings, and Recreational Management that will carry it out. I guess I'm not aware of physical work being done on municipal land that's not being overseen by whatever's the appropriate municipal board.
Well, I guess I'm confused by the applicant because I see on the list that some applicants say Park and Rec, some will say neighborhood councils, some will say other organizations. But for example, the splash pad in Marshall Royal is East Springfield Neighborhood Council, but isn't that a Parks Department responsibility?
Well, once again, they are the applicant, but I'm pretty sure the application will say project manager and will identify that it's the park department that will carry out the project if it's funded by the city council.
So I think that we need some clarification on who's carrying out the project, because that gets a little bit confusing, because I guess some of the projects are the applicant is the Parks Department and carried out by the Parks Department. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think that's a little bit confusing. Councilor Hurst?
No, I think you raise a good point. I think the question needs to be asked is whether the Parks Department should be allowed to submit applications for the CPA board to approve, or should that, or should that be coming out of city funding? And I know you guys do a great job in terms of scrutinizing it, Bob. And it looks like all of, some of the applications that the Park and Rec submitted were not approved. So that's good to know that you're really scrutinizing it to the degree that you are. But it begs the question as to whether they should be able to submit projects at all, or those projects should solely come from the community on up, which I think is the nature and the purpose of the CPA funding in general.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Okay, Bob, we'll continue.
All right, next slide, Karen. So the next project is the Marshall Roy spray structure. This was an example of where it was the East Springfield Neighborhood Council that actually submitted the application, but it's on a municipal playground. The actual project manager will be the Parks, Buildings, and Recreational Management. This is a project that actually was requested last year and did not make the cut of projects that we recommended to you. And they returned this year, and we are recommending it. CPA is being asked for the total project cost of $209,500. And it's a case where the splash pad is cracked in multiple places, and its spray functions are not all working.
Any questions, Council? All right, moving right along.
The Stone Soul Memorial Garden. And this is a request to create both a memorial to the Stone Soul picnic that's been going on for many, many years, and to refurbish the picnic area that is in the vicinity, with a picnic pavilion needs renovation. The walkways need to be refurbished. There's going to be a new playground, accessible playground, which CDBG is actually going to be paying for that component. And CPA was asked for $248,000 for all of this, and we are indeed recommending that to you.
Any questions, counselors? When these applications are submitted, do they tell you how they're funding the balance of the project?
In general, yes. Yeah, on the application, asks for what's the total project cost and asks how they are then financing whatever is not being paid for by CPA.
Okay. Thank you. Ready.
Okay. So this is the Westminster Street Children's Playground Phase 2. This was approved by the council 2 years ago to create a small children's playground on a formerly vacant tax title piece of property. And because of the hiatus caused by COVID, prices have gone up, and the McKnight Council came to the CPC and asked if we would recommend an additional $30,000 to help finish the project.
Any questions, counselors? Moving right along.
All right. So several years ago, the Office of Housing asked for money to help augment their first-time home buyer program. And we recommended, and you funded that, and they returned this year and asked for $160,000 to continue the program, which provides closing costs and down payment assistance with first-time home buyers in the city.
Who's here to speak to this?
Well, Bobby Demusis is here from the Office of Housing if you have a question that I can't answer.
Yeah, I'm here.
It's more for the program. Is this the program that for those that like don't qualify for the low income, they're like in between or a little bit over the threshold, or?
So when we came to you a couple years ago, we have for many, many years, over 20 years, we've done HUD-funded down payment assistance, and HUD restricts it to 80% of the area median income. And so often we'd find somebody who might be 83% of the area median income, and we couldn't help them with down payment assistance. So at that point, we came and said, can we help people? CPA allows us to go up to 100% of the area median income. So we came to the CPA and asked for people 81 to 100. Today, we have a new problem. Another limitation HUD places on us, and we're working on an exception for Springfield, but as we speak, HUD doesn't want to approve what they call luxury or excessive homes. And so they come up with a number every year, which they say is 95% of the area median sales price for Springfield. And so this year, as of June 1st, HUD's calculation of the area of 95% of the median sale price for example, for an existing single family is $213,000. You know, go on Google for a house under 213,000. We've helped one family in the last month. So CPA does not put a cap on that money. So I think this will let us help. You got to do the math. We do $3,000. So $3,000 for each homeowner. So this will let us help some of these people who you can't, unless it's a very small house, we haven't been able to help them. I made some progress today on obtaining data of actual real sales so we can calculate our own 95%. And we'll be submitting that to HUD very soon, which hopefully will raise up our 213. But these prices are just crazy today.
Yeah.
So we're not asking to just help families from 81% of the area median income up to 100. In this case, we'd like to help anybody who needs it. So we're probably going to be able to boost our area median up to, I'm thinking like 235, 240, but there's still going to be a lot of people who are forced to pay more than that. And we'd be able to then go to, we would always use the HUD money first. We put 250,000 at least into that annually from our HUD home funding. And then when we can't use the HUD, this would be our fallback. Because I mean, again, one in the last 30 days.
Mr. Denise, may I just want to clarify, I have down here that you expect to hit 40 new homeowners for 4,000, but you just said 3,000.
You're right, 4.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay, all right. And they're forgivable loans, which
forgivable over, correct, forgivable over the 5 years. So the homeowner buys the home, every year we'll forgive 20% of it. Once they've stayed in the home, it's a soft second mortgage that secures the money. And as long as they've stayed in the house after the 5 years, we can forgive the loan. They never pay anything back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. That's a great program. Thank you for explaining it.
Thank you.
Councilor Hurst.
I was just gonna say, I hope you apply for 250,000 next year.
Well,
absolutely.
I mean, I think if you're so limited by HUD and the CDBG money, I don't know if that money can be spent elsewhere, but you know, to the extent that we can access the CPA funding for that purpose, to me, we should.
Yeah, and I think so. Last year we were at, from June 1st of last year, their median income or median sales price was 198, and we started to see, as the market rose last half of last year, we saw where this was going. So now we've opened the door with HUD. They're willing to actually see what these actual sales prices are, and we all know what they are, and so we'll get a more realistic picture. And so now that I have the avenue for that data, I will be able to submit every year. When they come out with their number, we'll come back at them with our number. I don't think these prices are going to last. I don't think they're realistic. It's jaw dropping. It really is. But
yeah, I don't know.
Going forward, yes, I think you'll see us back here again, but I think we do have some help. And so going forward, maybe next year, if we're speaking like this, we'll again be looking for the people who are at 81% of the area median income or 90% of the area median income, which still isn't a heck of a lot, but they're worthy people, we're certainly still in the moderate income people that deserve help.
And just a quick question to Bob, Madam Chair, if you don't mind. Thank you. What happens if, because there are not a whole heck of a lot of homes out here and folks are getting outbid. What happens if there's funding left after, if they don't use all of this funding? I'd imagine it circles back and can be used next year, correct?
Yes, we carry it over.
With the Office of Housing, we allow them to use the money until it's gone. With construction projects, usually they tell us, the work will be done by November 2022, and that's what we put into the contract. But with this kind of a program, it's written so that they get to have the money until they've spent all the money.
Love it. Great work.
Yeah, I think, Bob, I think our contract will be for a year. When we applied for you 2 years ago, we didn't use it all because, again, we were much more limited in the people we could help. So we just kind of did an extension, and we've since spent it all. But I think, especially this year, I don't think we will run into that. I think we can help 40 people easily.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Just a quick question, Bob. How do we arrive at the $4,000 mark? Is it just based on how much funds we have available in the targeted goal, or is there something that ties us to that?
So I forget when did we submit these applications, Karen?
It was in April.
April. Okay. So in April, we're seeing what happened, last year with our lower limit. It's I guess it's a product of our, so we annually budget about 250,000 of our HUD home funds towards this. And we just kind of duplicated it to say, maybe, let's see, 3 or 4 years ago, we were only at 2,500 because we were running out of money too quickly. So we decided to put more money in it and up the assistance we're able to offer. $4,000 basically covers your closing costs. It's really not helping your down payment as much, but it's certainly, it's a good amount that we can help somebody get into a home. HUD has another requirement that you have to show each and every case that the money is needed. And that ended up hurting savers, people maybe who saved for 10 years and had $20,000 to put down on a home, which brought their housing cost to income ratio lower, where it was hard to show that they actually needed that money. Even though they probably struggled for 10 years to buy that, it actually hurt the savers. So we came up with a relatively low amount of 4,000, thinking that it's defensible to HUD to say that anybody under 80% of the area median income can use it 4,000 to get themselves into a home. Whether they're
that's just what I was kind of thinking was that's about what you pay for closing, so if we could.
And that's pretty much where, your down payment and your closing costs at your closing, when you close, it all gets jumbled in together, but that's kind of how we came up with that number. And again, it was about 5 years ago when HUD put the restrictions that said, if we come in and audit you, you got to show us this family really needed that 4,000.
Right. But that's what we've come up. So like in the future, if we're using CPA funds, we could look at the market and try to figure out if we wanted to try to reach a broader population. We could
with CPA, absolutely we could. HUD, again, unless they change that new final rule they came out with a few years ago, I'm always gonna have to show that necessity, that need.
Right.
If you look at some other big cities, and they're not really New England, but sometimes these home funds can give them, 20,000 or 15,000, and that's where HUD's looking that to be defended. But I'm confident that if and when we are audited, we can show that every one of these families could use it. We didn't unduly enrich somebody. These are helping people get into their first home and start to build some equity.
Okay. All right.
And Mr. DeMusi, if I recall from 2 years ago, when you were talking about the extension of the amount, it started out at 2,000, I believe.
2,500, I think.
2,500, and we found that people weren't applying for the grant. So,
no, it wasn't that they weren't applying. Again, it was well, we weren't the people 81%. On our application, it says what's 80%. A family of 4 can earn $65,000 roughly. And so if a family of 4 looked at our application and saw that they made 72, we weren't getting their application. But when we could change our application and raise it up to 100% of the area median income, that's when we would know, okay, they're over the 80%, but they're below the 100, so we can fund them still with CPA. So it's great to be able to put right on our application and on the website 100% of the area median income, and that invites more applications.
Oh, okay. Because I know that you raised it up to 4,000, and that's when the funds were rapidly.
Yeah, and it wasn't rapidly because we were still, again, we were only helping people with your funds between 81 and 100%. But yeah, I think when we came to you for that extension, we probably had enough for maybe I think we had like 40,000 left or something. So we probably helped another 9 or 10 folks. And because we had changed our HUD amount from 2,500, we then changed we changed the CPA. When we came time to ask you to extend it that year for HUD, when we originally were granted it, we were giving people with the HUD money 2,500. As of July 1st of that year, we decided to move to 4,000. And at the same time, we asked you to mirror that program with our extension.
And this time it's a forgivable loan. Last time it was not a loan at all. And so you decided to change that?
No, nothing has changed. It's always been a soft second mortgage on the home. Because if somebody were to sell after, say, 4 years, in this case, they would have to pay $800 out of the proceeds of the sale of their home. They'd have to repay $800. If they stay for the full 5 years, we'll discharge that soft second mortgage. They won't have to pay anything.
Okay. Well,
And that's how it's always worked.
okay. All right. I was mistaken. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, so the East Springfield Library Outdoor Reading Room. This is to build an outdoor area by the East Springfield Library in Osborne Terrace. It is a total cost of $107,000 and some change, and they requested $85,500 from CPA, and we are recommending it to you. Our condition, though, is whatever is the assisted area for outdoor recreation needs to have a restriction on it that it stays for recreation.
Thank you. Next.
All right, the Kilroy House exterior renovation phase 2. If you remember last year, we recommended this project for phase 1, which was to repair the Spanish tile roof and to study the best ways to fix the stucco. Sadly, the stucco has been discovered to have asbestos in it, so treatment of the stucco becomes more expensive. And the museums have asked for CPA to help now with the stucco repair, and we are recommending $250,000.
Any questions? Okay. Next.
Drama studio restoration. This is, the drama studio is in the historic All Saints Church on Oakland Street, and they are doing a variety of exterior renovations and rehabilitations dealing with their stucco as well as their wood trim, and we are recommending $170,000 for that.
Any questions? All right.
No question, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
This is a multi-building project on Buyer Street, the Hotel Rainville and New Court Terrace Apartments, which is going to be done by Wayfinders. It's a $14 million rehabilitation of these 4 buildings for affordable housing. They have multiple funding sources. They asked CPA for $500,000, and we are recommending $250,000.
Any questions? I do want to know if, I'm sorry, if these are, oh, it's Wayfinder, so it's for, okay, never mind. my question. I answered it for myself. Councilor Davila?
I think you might have had just asked kind of the same question, Madam Chair, but Bob, are these buildings currently privately owned, or is it Wayfinder who owns them?
Well, Wayfinders is in a sense private. It's a private nonprofit. So the three buildings that make up New Court Terrace Apartments, which are the three buildings toward the, on the bottom of the screen, are owned by Wayfinders. The one that's sort of by itself is the Hotel Rainville, which is owned by some other entity, but Wayfinders is in the process of purchasing that. And James Linville is here at the meeting, so he may be able to clarify it. But when this project is done and it's being helped with a combination of low-income housing tax credits and historic tax credits and other funding sources, all four of the buildings will be owned by Wayfinders.
And Bob, are these the purpose of this will be for housing? It's not going to be for housing for market housing. Oh
no, this will be for low-income housing.
Low-income housing, yes.
A percent, like with the low-income housing tax credits.
Gotcha.
Most of the units have to be available to people who make less than 60%. Some of them are less than 30%. A few of them are under 80%. But yes, it will be income-eligible people.
Now it says here they're going to rehab 4 historic apartment buildings. So those are the buildings next to each other in that little strip there?
So all of these are on Byers Street. They are not necessarily exactly next to each other, but they're all on that street.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, I do have one question. Are these apartments, I'm sorry, Councilor Hirsch, right after this, are these apartments currently vacant?
My understanding of that these are apartments that are currently income restricted. They were renovated 20, 25 years ago and are now in need of re-renovation.
Okay, I just wanted to know if it was going to help us at all with our housing crisis, but since they're already rented, no. Councilor Hurst?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, who does the follow-up on these properties to ensure that the money is being spent how it is that it's supposed to be spent based off of the application? Go ahead.
Yeah. So in the case of these buildings, what we do with all of our private developers. So the municipal departments, once you approve an allocation, it's like you approved it through general fund money. They have access to the money, and they report to us as to what they've done. With things that are not part of municipal government, such as these buildings, which are owned by Wayfinders, we will be doing reimbursement assistance. So, for example, we're going to be helping with roof repairs on the buildings. They will do the repairs with some of the other money they already have, come to us with the canceled checks, receipted bills, and say, we've replaced 4 roofs, and the total cost was, let's say $600,000 or whatever. Please now reimburse to us the $250,000 you promised us.
Mm-hmm.
And we will go, well, I tend not to like to do roofs, so I'm not sure whether I will get up there and inspect it myself. But usually what Karen and I do with other projects is we go out, if it's window repair or masonry repair, we go out and actually visually inspect it.
Got it. And I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
No, I was summing up.
And the only reason why I asked is because I know we approved the project last year, and I think it was on, was it Chestnut Street, Bob? Wasn't Chestnut Street, but in that general vicinity, we approved the private developer last year. And I know that that same private developer, I just looked at a report saying that he very well might be coming before us to get a tax break. And so I just wondered whether that individual has done the work that it is that he said he was going to do from you all's standpoint. So we can talk about that offline.
Counselor, you're speaking of the apartment building and the row houses on Maple Street up by Central Street.
Yes.
So we indeed recommended both the apartment building and the row houses get CPA assistance. We have a contract with him. He has not done work. My guess is he's not done work because he needs to have his total financial package together in order for the bank to start letting him draw down on the money. But so he has not asked to access the CPA money that is committed to him in a contract. But when it is, it will be an example of we're helping you with the roof and the windows and let's say the pointing. Tell us when you're ready for an inspection and give us canceled checks and receipted bills to show that you've paid for this.
Got it. Makes sense.
But this project is one that's running much slower than one would hope.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Thank you, Counselor. Karen, how many do we have left? You're muted. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. I think we have, 3 more.
3 more. Okay. We're going to try to get through these counselors. Because
actually, 2 more. Yeah.
2 more. Okay. It's 6:33 and I do have another meeting.
Yeah. Madam Chair, if you will grant me 30 seconds for a quick follow-up.
Yeah, we're not done yet. As soon as we go to the next one. What did you want to comment on the last one?
Yeah, I just have a quick question on the last one, Madam Chair, if I may. Bob, I think you mentioned there's a person here relating to the project.
There is Mr. Linville, who works for Wayfinders and will be the project coordinator, at least was on the meeting when we began.
I'm
I don't know
if,
Okay.
I was just wondering, is he still here?
Yes, I am, Counselor.
I was just wondering.
For Wayfinders.
Hi, James. Good to see you. Is there anything that you would like to add on this?
As Bob mentioned, this is it's 89 units of existing affordable housing. Upon completion of the project, it will still be 100% affordable at 60% or below. There'll be at least 20% at 30% AMI, but 100% of the project will be at 60%.
Right.
We have owned the Newcourt properties, and we're looking to do a renovation on those, primarily due to windows that were required in the last renovation that were we couldn't replace them, or due to the historic constraints at that time. And we've had a lot of problem with those windows breaking, cracking. They're not, not efficient. And while we were looking into that, we were approached by the owners, which was a single entity nonprofit that owned the Hotel Rainville, which is at 32 buyers. We were approached by the state, by a few different agencies. They were struggling with the condition of the building. They also had a permanent loan coming due. And they interviewed various entities to see who could help them with both capacity to run a property and the ability to renovate a property. We were chosen, and we are going to acquire the property, assuming existing soft debt. And the goal also with that building will be to add an elevator. That's the Hotel Rainville is specifically for homeless individuals who were homeless or at risk of homeless. And we were asked by the state to explore the ability to add an elevator to the property, which would allow this hard house population to age in place.
Right. Judge, when you say soft bid, are you saying the lowest bidder?
Excuse me? No, I think it was an overall it was less about the acquisition than about our capacity and interviewing. We will manage it. They interviewed our management company as well. This is a tenant board that is part of this, and I think they were happy all around with our organization.
And I have to move along, Councilor Davila. I'm sorry.
If I just have 10 seconds for a quick comment, if I may, Madam Chair. James, it sounds like a good project. However, I would love to see, I would love to get more details when the actual rehab begins, because you're getting $500,000, that's a recommendation, $500,000. And I think prevailing wage will be more in order for this great project.
No, they asked for $500,000, Councilor. The recommendation is 250 because that's
250. Yes, I'm sorry, I misread that. 200. Either way, I think it's being public money. I think prevailing wage should be in order. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Next.
So this is the vacant, deteriorated apartment building at 2612 Main Street on the corner of Arch. It was a city tax foreclosed property. Whitman Properties is now is proposing to renovate it into 12 units of housing. It is a $3 million plus project, and they asked for $250,000, which we are recommending for exterior work and for a fire suppression system.
No questions? All righty. Is there any others, Karen?
And lastly is the Classical High facade restoration. I think you all recognize Classical. The Condo Association is talking about doing a multi-year project to repoint and clean the various elevations of Classical, and we're recommending $50,000 for this phase, which will focus on the State Street facade that we all drive by.
Thank you. Any questions, councilors? All right, before we end the meeting, Bob, I did want to just mention one project that I was disappointed that didn't make the list, and that was the bathroom or the restrooms in the new park, the Bolden Park on, what's the street? The Bolden Park, the restrooms. And I think I know why. It's because of your explanation from before that that's not part of the park itself. But however, when DeBerry Park was DeBerry Park and before it was renamed, they had access to, folks had access to go to the restrooms in the school. And so now when you go to utilize that park, you have parents, elderly out there, you have kids out there, and they don't have the opportunity. And so just because something isn't like the basketball court or the splash pad or the track doesn't mean it's not an important feature or a needed asset of the park. And so I do think what me and Councilor Davila said earlier is that we need to expand that a little bit and just consider things like that, because they did have access before, and now they're gonna, if any events are done out there, porta potties are gonna have to be purchased or they're gonna have to leave to use the restroom. So I was disappointed to see that, because I worked with the Old Hill Neighborhood Council and I listened to them on that project quite a bit.
Yeah, well, you know, I hear what you're saying, Counselor. I mean, clearly for us, it was one $5 million worth of requests and half of that amount to recommend, and we preferred to keep closer to true recreational uses. What I tell people is, like, CPA cannot solve all of the city's problems any more than CDBG has been able to solve all the city's problems in the last 40 years of CDBG money. The other thing, if you're not aware of it, Counselor, as it was presented to us, this bathroom facility will only be open when there are organized teams on the field. So if a mother goes there with kids at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday and there's no team on the field, the bathroom is locked. If some teens come by after school to play pickup basketball and there are no teams on the field, the bathrooms are locked. So it's a limited use facility, and obviously we preferred in our making our recommendations to have it go toward more active recreational components.
And I understand what you're saying. However, in the summer, there's a lot of events that happen in that community. And historically, they have had access to use the restroom without leaving the park. So you have a lot of events that happen in the summer. And I don't think that a bathroom is less needed because it's not used 24/7. Because from my understanding, whenever someone has an event or when sports teams are out there, they will be able to have a bath attendant and utilize the restroom. So I don't think it's less important because it won't be used 24/7. I don't think any city bathroom is open 24/7. And so I just wanted to express my concern, just like the parking lot, I think is an important feature of the park. I think restrooms are as well. So that's just my opinion, and I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
And I know that CPA funds cannot handle all problems in the city of Springfield, so I will be going back and work with Pat on it. I just wanted to express that we may need to look more broader at the projects when we consider them.
Yep. Okay. Council, even though you may have to leave for another meeting, do you want me to go over the few projects that the late arriving councilors did not hear my explanation?
That would be up to them if they, no. The meeting started at 5:30. And so I'm gonna need to end the meeting. If they have questions on the other projects, they can reach out.
Okay. And this has been recorded, so they can listen to my presentation and then reach out to the CPC if they have questions. Great.
Absolutely. Yep. They can go back and watch it and reach out to you, Bob, Karen, whoever they want to reach out to. I don't think I want to make everybody wait a little bit longer because of that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the Finance Committee meeting, and I thank everybody for their time, and I thank you for the great presentation and the great work you have done, and the recommendations are wonderful, and just thank the committee because I know this is volunteer for most, and I just thank you for the hard work that you do to get these projects recommended and hopefully all approved.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Counselor.
Thank you so much. All right. Good night,
Thank you all.
everyone.
Good night.